Should you share your New Year's resolutions on your social media? We're talking specifically about your New Year's resolutions for your brand and business and not your personal life. Your personal, private New Year's resolutions should say just that: personal, private for your friends and family and yourself only. There needs to be a little bit of division for safety's sake when it comes to your personal life and your business facing life online. And the only caveat to that is if you're a lifestyle creator and that's something you typically share with your audience, then it would be a little bit of something you can consider. Now, going back to the business side of things, should you be sharing this with your audience? In a lot of cases, the answer is going to be no, you should not. And I'm going to explain why. And that also is going to determine if you choose to do so. Because we have to remember our businesses, what we're doing on social media, how we're presenting ourselves, the conversations we're having is not about us. Our New Year's resolutions, our plans for our businesses are about us. And our fandom doesn't need to know that. They don't need to know that we're planning these big moves inside of our business unless it affects them, unless it impacts them, or unless it inspires them to also take action. So for the most part, I like to say no, you shouldn't be sharing your New Year's resolutions for your business on your business social medias. However, there are a couple of times when you can and maybe you might want to, just to make that connection with your audience. So if you are going to share your New Year's resolutions, you want to make sure you're not just saying, hey, I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3 inside of my business this year. Because how does that impact your audience? It doesn't, right? It doesn't have any effect on them. They're not going to take the time to listen to what you're going to do inside of your business because it doesn't matter to them. However, if you say, hey, I'm going to do this in my business this year, here are the steps I'm taking to get to that point, where you're showing us your actual plan, the steps you're going to take to get there, and you're going to be documenting this for us to show us how you're doing it so that you're step by step saying, okay, this is what I'm doing. Here's how you can do this in your business as well. Now, all of a sudden, it's meaningful to your audience. You're not sharing things with your audience that they cannot learn from, grow from, or be entertained by. Just info dumping what you plan on doing in your business is not going to help you and will cause them to continue to scroll and probably spend less time around you for the beginning of the month as well, because they don't want to hear you just kind of saying, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this other thing, because it has no significance or no impact on their lives. So if you're going to be sharing your New Year's resolutions, which you can do if you have a good solid plan for coming in and having that conversation, you have to make sure you're showing us the actual detailed plan, the step-by-step, exactly how you're going to be doing this, and then inform us how it's going to impact us. Because for the most part, as you're growing your business, it's simply to make you money. And it might help them along the way, but because it's not them focused, it doesn't matter to them. So you have to show us why this is so valuable to your followers. So for me, if we look at my author life, you guys know I'm a best-selling fiction author. If I were to drop the New Year's resolution of writing a new novel and publishing it with one of the high-end publishers, going through the process of getting an agent and marketing it to the different companies and deciding to sign the contracts, and I'm going to go through all these points, then all of a sudden, if as I'm showing them the steps and showing them the plan to get there and showing them how they too can take those steps to do it, now it's interesting to my audience because they're getting a new book, they're going to see that whole process, they're going to be a part of it, and they get to benefit from following in my steps if that's something they want to do as well. Now it's valuable to them. So at that point, you are going to be looking around and deciding what resolution is worth sharing and what resolution is worth just doing it myself. If you want to have New Year's resolutions, by all means, make them, list them, write them down, have everything ready to go, have your steps all figured out, and then do it for yourself. And if you feel like you need some accountability in this, your audience is probably not the group to give you that accountability. You should have a circle of friends, business friends, that can keep you accountable. So if you feel that you need accountability to make the New Year's resolution and then keep it and actually follow through with all the steps, this is more information for your close circle of confidants rather than your public-facing fandom, right? So be aware, if you're going to share this with your entire following, there has to be a logical reason for you to share it other than just info dumping. If we're just info dumping, it is not worth the post. It's not going to help you. And then if something goes wrong or something changes or you're not doing it fast enough to other people's liking, it can backfire on you. So for me, I don't like to share my New Year's resolutions. For some of my students, they love to share their New Year's resolutions, and some of them can work it really, really well to be a really good, valuable part of the community conversation they're establishing within their following. If you can do that, do it. And if you are somebody who just wants to make sure you get it done and want to be accountable, get some people to hold you accountable. Have that group of friends around you who are business minded, who are doing these things as well. And you can work together to make sure you're checking in with each other to take those steps. And then at the very end, you can say, hey, a few months ago, I made a New Year's resolution to do this. I did it, and here's how I did it. And come into this later in the conversation for the public-facing way that you are going to be putting this out on social media. You want to make sure you've got those steps, or you have the behind the scenes of how you're doing it so that it's meaningful to them and they can see that end or finished result. So if you are going to be giving out a New Year's resolution publicly to everyone, put some timelines in there, put the steps in there, and then make sure you're checking back in to show people along the way to let them take ownership of what you're doing as well and really internalize how you are creating this and how it's impacting them, which will then further the community and the conversation that you are building. Follow along for more tips and tricks on how you can grow as an entrepreneur on social media to save time and effort creating your content so that this can be your most profitable year with the least amount of stress possible. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes, and Happy New Year!